Hi there riders, it's Jason from the E-Scooter Co, and I hope you're all doing well. Sorry it's been a while. We've been crazy busy, slam busy, and the weather in the UK has been somewhat rubbish, so we've been limited on the amount of riding time. But I have managed to get out on an e-scooter between the rainstorms, thunder and torrential rain. I managed to pick up the Dualtron Ultra. Super stoked to test this e-scooter because it's very close to my background. I love the mountain biking, motocross, freestyle motocross and bike racing. So this is kind of a combination of all of it. So if you had to think about it, it's basically the love child of a Ducati race bike and a Range Rover. This thing will conquer everything. They market it as the king of off-road, and unquestionably it is the king of off-road. I get a lot of messages that say, I've seen this e-scooter and it's got the... Don't waste my time. Don't waste your time. If you've got the finances available and you want an off-roader, don't bother with anything else. This is the one. I've tested pretty much everything else in terms of its competition. There's a lot of OEM products that are coming out that hopefully in a few years are going to be at where we need as a product. But this is the finished article. This is actually the second version. They basically updated the controller, which I think it needed because it's got a massive battery and it's got a massive output. So they've upgraded it to a 35 amp controller, which is exactly the same as what's in the Dualtron Thunder. So on paper, they should be the same performance, but they're still saying that the Thunder is a little bit quicker. I don't know. I think with the amount of with the duplicate of components in both the Thunder and the Ultra, I'd say they're about the same. When I first started looking at picking my next e-scooter to do a demo on, I was like Thunder or Ultra, and I couldn't decide. And I also looked at it from a client's perspective. It's like, what's the difference? The performance the same, the weight's the same. What is the difference? And the more I've ridden this, the more I get what they're doing. Basically, when you ask what the difference is this is a dedicated off-roader. It's at home in a forest. It's at home down pathways that got loose stuff on it. It is the ultimate off-roader. This I can go anywhere in the country with, and it will conquer it, even on concrete. There is some techniques that you will need to use just because the tires on it are super knobbly and aggressive. So when you're riding on a harder surface, it really feels a little bit bumpy. But if you can get past that and you can ride past that concrete section to get onto the loose stuff, it comes into its own. Absolutely phenomenal machine. I've left my helmet out and a set of gloves to remind me. This is the first scooter that I've ridden with a full face helmet. Basically just to protect my face, my jaw. I don't want to mess this all up. It's a good face. It's the only one I got. And a set of good gloves. Gloves predominantly actually for the grip. Because it's quite a physical, a very powerful machine, you end up getting sweaty hands. I mean, we've only got like 5 to 10 degrees in temperature outside, but it's a physical scooter just because of the amount of power that's distributed through it. I've got it set on crazy mode, but you can dial that down so you can go for a long ride, a long cruise, and it's more than comfortable. I've set it on crazy mode, and the maximum I can ride it for is maybe an hour and a half, and then my legs ache because it's physical. When you're braking, you're moving. When you're accelerating, you're driving into it, and you're shifting the feet around, which is one of the widest boards on the market. This is the first scooter I've been able to ride with no hands. So the geometry on it is perfect. The wider board allows you to have a wider foot stance. So I still ride with one foot in front of the other, but it just allows me to separate my feet. And how my feet are separated means if I'm turning right, I use my front foot. If I'm turning left, I use my rear foot on the left. So in terms of actual product and the performance of it, nothing comes close. Don't email me arguing it. This is the one. Just going from the ground up, we've already mentioned the chunky tyres are really at home on a loose surface, on grass, on sand, on gravel. That's where they come into their own. They're not as good on the harder surfaces. So if you are riding to a location, I'd recommend just using the rear tyre, just the rear engine, and I've learned this the hard way. Basically, there's not as much surface contact with a hard and knobbly tyre than there is with a traditional urban tyre. So if you're using both wheels, the amount of torque and the amount of power that drives through the front wheel will mean if you're going around a corner, doesn't matter, it doesn't need to be that steep a corner, it doesn't need to be that steep an angle, and if you throttle down too much, that front wheel will spin and you'll lose it. If you lose the front wheel on this, you will go down. It's already got a few battle scars, okay? Don't be tempted to be a hero and use both engines on harder surfaces because you will lose the front wheel. Just use the rear wheel and it's going to get you to where you want to be, and then you can really open her up. You need to be responsible, and that's why I'm wearing Kevlar covered knuckles, gloves, full face helmet, and I'd also get some pads for the elbows. My helmet is basically the highest grade downhill mountain bike helmet, so it can take a real beating. They are a lot more expensive, but I've only got one face and one head, so it's worth investing in it. You could go a little bit cheaper and then just get a traditional motocross helmet, which would do just a good job, if not better, because the protection levels, I think, is a little bit higher. The only difference being is it's going to be a little bit heavier. But please, 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 if you're looking at Thunders and Ultras, you need to be wearing full face helmet, padding, and you need to be having some experience. If you're not very familiar with it, give me a shout, come down to the track, and we'll give you a little bit of guidance. It's not a problem. So back to the product, we talked about the wheels. It's coming with traditional cable actuated brake calipers, which surprised me. I thought for the sort of price that we're looking at, we might go with the hydraulic system. The more I ride it, the more I get that actually a cable system is not such a bad idea. This needs to be kept simple. Why, you ask? Because you're going to come off. All right, so motocross, off-roading, you're going to take a little tumble. 99% of those little tumbles are you're just going to drop the scooter, or you're just going to slide it out and it's funny and your buddies laugh at you, you get back on and you ride twice as hard. Easy to maintain, really simple to maintain. You don't have to worry about leakages, you can adjust the cables. So personally, I see what they've done with it. They may upgrade it, I'm not fussed, but I need an e-scooter that if I do take a tumble on it or I do take a drop on it, it's easy to fix. And that's why it doesn't have the flashy LEDs, because the way you ride this is you're gonna take a tumble, okay? There's two types of riders in this world. Those that haven't fallen off and those that haven't fallen off yet. And it's part and parcel of the fun. If you're riding sensibly, no one's gonna get hurt, it's fine. So I don't actually want anything on the stem because it's gonna get cracked, it's gonna get damaged, and it's basically the difference between a Thunder and this is you're trying to take a Thunder off-road, it's a little bit like trying to take a Ferrari off-road. You can change the tires and you can lift the suspension and change the suspension to allow you to go off-road, but if you take a little ding, it's going to cost you. So that's what I like about the Dualtron Ultra. It is a bomb-proof e-scooter that I can take off-road. It's already picked up some battle scars and I'm able to just swap the components out, the bumpers and the deck, and I'm back to a brand new shiny e-scooter. As it stands, I personally like the battle scar, so I'm going to leave her as she is. Dual motor kicking out 5,400 watts of power. This took me up to 50 miles an hour, and I could speak to a few programmers I know, and I'm pretty sure it could go even quicker. Trust me, you don't need it any faster. I have an argument in that you can go buy a Ferrari or an Audi or a BMW, and you can take it to 150 miles an hour, and that's just a number. Because you're inside a cockpit and you've got so much technology surrounding you, it doesn't necessarily feel like 150 miles an hour. You go on a go-kart and do 40 or 50 miles an hour, you feel like you're doing warp speed. The same principle applies to these e-scooters, especially the Ultra and especially the Thunder. When you start looking at e-scooters that got 3,600 watts of power, that's when you get that adrenaline rush because they're so quick. This is a recreational sports vehicle. This isn't your commuter vehicle unless you live on a farm, because I've had more fun on this in the forests, along the canals, than any other scooter I've had. But it is a very different type of scooter, and it's probably one of the best I've ever ridden. It's not cheap, but for what you're getting, I think it is. I mean, okay, it's 3,000. It's £3,000. But if you compare that, if I want to go and get a top-level mountain bike that's downhill with full suspension, I'm starting at £5,000 and I'm going up to 25 grand. And that doesn't have an engine on it, so I've got to do the work. If I want to look at a motocross bike, I've got to stick an extra digit on it. So if we look at it in terms of performance and value for money, £3,000 to do 50 miles an hour, day in, day out, on a 70-mile range, that's peanuts. Don't get me wrong, £3,000 is a lot of money, but for what you're getting, in comparison to everything else, road race bikes start at like 7-8 grand, mountain bikes are £5,000. So this retailing at £3,000, I think that's a bargain. I genuinely do. Granted, it is a lot of money. 3,000 is a huge amount of money, but compare it to anything else, you're certainly not going to get a car for that, and if you do, it's going to cost you a fortune repairing it. Back to the topic at hand, e-scooter, the Dualtron Ultra. I would look at having something like this for my adrenaline side, for the weekend warriors, we've got a lot of clients that are ex-BMXers, you know what I'm talking about, hello guys, motocrossers that have retired, or enduro riders, or downhill mountain bikers, and they've switched to something like this because they can get that same enjoyment out of it, but they're not going to get as busted up. I've got a lot of injuries. I'm not going back into downhill mountain biking, and I'm not going into motocross. So something like this is fantastic for me. It comes with I think all the Dualtrons and all the Speedways have done a fantastic job. It comes with the throttle management system, which again will control every aspect of the e-scooter, down to the electronic braking or the regen braking, down to the acceleration, the quantity of power, or the top end speed. It comes with the gears from 1 to 3. You'll have to excuse me, I can't remember. I think one takes you to about 21 miles an hour on a single motor, and then 2's up to 30, and then 3 is all the way up to 50. What you tend to find is, and I was quite surprised about this, is I've got the Speedway 5 dual motor, which I use day to day. The acceleration point on them is very close. Now, the Dualtron 5 dual motor has 3,600. This has 5,600. And I was like, well, where's the extra power going? And I came to the conclusion it's actually when you get to that middle range, because there's only so much power you can put through the wheels that it just spins, you lose a load of rubber, and you've got flat spots all over the tyre. So off the line, they're probably pretty similar. I mean, yeah, the Ultra's going to, beat it off the line. But where you notice the difference in speed is when it gets to 30 miles an hour. This thing just keeps going all the way to 50. The Speedway 5 will probably get to 30 and it will creep, and you might run out of wherever you're going to. So in conclusion, 5,600 watts of untamed power. It is probably the best e-scooter I've ever ridden. Feel free to drop us a message about it because it is quite unusual. It is a super scooter. It is unquestionably the best off-roader. It's got adjustable suspension. You can change the ride height in addition to changing the stiffness. The stiffness as stock I thought was quite stiff, and even as a big guy I think it's quite stiff. But I've learned to deal with it, and it doesn't bother me because I do a little bit of road or tarmacking, and I do a little bit of off-roading. So I can change it and play with it, but I'm quite content with what it is. A lot of people have bought seats for it. Not a bad idea because it is quite a physical e-scooter, and after 30 minutes to 45 you're tired, especially if you've got this tuned up. If you dial it down a bit, you can ride this thing for the whole day, anywhere you like. In conclusion, pound for pound, if your pockets are deep enough, this thing is phenomenal. Definitely recommended, and if this is a taster of what the Thunder can do, I'm super excited because the Thunder is going to be more of a track scooter or an outright speed demon which we can take to the track. This round the track was incredible amount of fun, but we had to be, well, nobody else would ride it. I was the guinea pig, I was the test dummy. Nobody else would ride it just because the amount of power and the type of tyre on it, if you get on the throttle too quickly, you will slide it. I'm probably scaring people, but I'm irresponsible with too much power, so I did dial it down a bit. I invested in a full face and a set of gloves. I'd even go so far as buying a padded hoodie. I think Alpine Stars do padded hoodies. You know, don't drop a load of money on your e-scooter, then get injured and not be able to ride it. Be responsible, guys. Ride this in an environment that you can control that's safe. I'm fortunate enough that I've got fields and a racetrack that we've got access to that at certain times of the day no one else is there. So I can ride this in a safe environment. If you want to try one out, we are super lucky that you can come and demo my one. I think this is the only demo unit in the UK. We will have a demo unit. Well, we've already got a demo unit at the Speedway 5, dual motor, Ledger, I think Raptor, Spider, and then our showroom, super excited by the way, is opening up in, well, we're moving in on Guy Fawkes. Remember 5th of November. We are pretty slammed for appointments, so if you are looking for appointments, give us a shout, and we're doing kind of a concierge service in the E-Cave or the Back Cave. More than welcome to pop down and meet the family, meet the crew that's behind the e-Scooter Co. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions, give us a shout, drop us an email. I'm hoping I've covered most of the aspects. I've probably missed a bit of the technical stuff, but I'm hoping you can comprehend where I'm coming from. So if you want a super scooter that goes off-road, Dualtron Ultra.